You'd think hitting $1 million would finally make someone feel secure. Nearly 70% of millionaires, when asked directly, say they wouldn't call themselves wealthy. Not humble bragging, not modesty. They genuinely don't feel it. And the reason has almost nothing to do with how much money is actually in their accounts. My name is Kai Cash, and I spend way too much time thinking about the gap between what a number says and what a person actually feels. If you've ever assumed hitting some magic number would finally make the money anxiety stop, stick around, because this research suggests something a lot more uncomfortable, and honestly, a lot more useful. Subscribe if you want to actually understand this, instead of just being told to want less. Here's what most people assume about wealth and security. They assume it's a straight line. More money, more safety, more calm, all the way up. No exceptions. If that were true, millionaires should be the calmest people on the planet about money. Instead, research consistently shows the opposite. A significant share of them report feeling like they're one bad year away from losing everything. Still checking prices, still comparing themselves to people with more, still doing quiet math about whether they have enough. Think of it like altitude sickness. You'd assume the higher you climb, the better the view feels, the more secure you'd be standing at the top. But climb high enough, fast enough, and your body starts reacting to the altitude itself, not to any actual danger in front of you. The air is thinner up there, in a way that has nothing to do with whether the ground is solid. Financial security works similarly. Past a certain point, the number stops being the thing that determines how safe you feel. Here's the actual mechanism, and it has a name economists use constantly: reference point thinking. Your brain doesn't evaluate wealth in absolute terms. It evaluates it relative to whatever group you're comparing yourself to. And that comparison group quietly shifts as your own number goes up. When you're comparing yourself to people making minimum wage, $100,000 feels enormous. Once you're a millionaire, your brain has quietly reset the comparison group to other millionaires. And now the ones with $5 million feel like the ones who've actually made it. The number moved. The feeling of almost there didn't. Let's put real numbers on why this specific comparison keeps resetting. Research from Northwestern Mutual found that only about a third of millionaires consider themselves genuinely wealthy. Here's the part that will surprise you. It's not primarily about lifestyle inflation, though that plays a role. A huge amount of typical millionaire net worth is sitting in a home they live in, plus retirement accounts they usually can't touch without penalty until close to 60. On paper, the number looks secure. In actual accessible cash flow, it can feel surprisingly tight, which is a completely rational feeling being generated by an irrational-sounding number. I'll be honest with you. I used to assume this was some kind of ingratitude, rich people complaining about being rich. Then I actually sat down with the math for a hypothetical version of my own situation at a higher net worth. And I understood it differently. If most of your number is locked in illiquid assets, your day-to-day financial reality can genuinely feel unstable, even while your total net worth climbs. Because the two things, net worth and liquid security, are measuring completely different experiences of money. Here's a before and after most people never think through. Before you understand reference point thinking, hitting a big financial milestone feels like it should be the finish line. The moment the anxiety finally turns off. After you understand it, you realize the anxiety was never really about the specific number. It was about the gap between wherever you are and wherever the comparison group currently sits. And that gap has a strange habit of staying roughly the same size no matter how far you climb. And here's another one. Before you understand this, you assume wealthy people who still worry about money must be lying, performing false modesty for social reasons. After you understand it, you realize the worry is often completely genuine, generated by a psychological mechanism that doesn't automatically shut off just because the underlying number got bigger. 63% of surveyed millionaires in one report agreed that a single major setback would seriously impact their lifestyle. A lost job or a market crash. That's not performance. That's the reference point trap operating exactly as designed. Now, here's where people usually take this the wrong way. So let me be clear. This isn't an argument that money doesn't matter, or that building wealth is pointless because the goalposts just move anyway. Financial security is real and worth building toward. This is specifically about understanding that the emotional relief you're expecting probably won't arrive automatically, because the comparison resets faster than most people expect it to. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires a deliberate interruption most people never make. Instead of measuring your progress against whoever currently sits one rung above you, measure it against your own past self, specifically on a fixed calendar, not a moving target. Where was your actual liquid net worth a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? That comparison doesn't reset the way social comparison does, because it's anchored to a fact instead of a feeling. So if you're chasing a number right now, convinced that reaching it will finally make the money anxiety disappear, I want you to sit with this instead. The number will very likely arrive at some point. The automatic feeling of enough attached to it might not, unless you deliberately change what you're measuring yourself against. Because the version of you who fixes the comparison point isn't settling for less. They're just the only one who actually gets to feel the security the number was supposed to buy them in the first place. And that's the whole point of this channel. Helping you understand the psychology behind the numbers, not just the numbers themselves. Subscribe for more videos like this one.